Carolyn Dube here. What's the play for today? Well, it's Tuesday, so that means another Let's Play video. And what's going to be the theme or challenge for Let's Play for this video for this entire month? It is using some neglected supplies, showing them some love. Because the things that I've purchased, I don't know about you, but sometimes they get used a little bit and then they end up in the bottom of a drawer, the back of a shelf, that kind of thing, and they get forgotten about. Now, there's nothing wrong with them. They're awesome supplies, but for whatever reason, I haven't used them in a long time. Well, I am going to bring back some fun and some play for myself by pulling them out, using them again, and guess what? It's like they're brand new to me because it's been so long since I've used them. Well, what am I going to be playing with for this video? I'm going to be playing with these glass pebbles or stones. And these were, I've seen people put pictures behind them, that kind of stuff. I'm going to turn them into word pebbles. Now, these glass pebbles that I bought in the floral section of probably Michael's 10 plus years ago, and they've been sitting in a drawer that long, they've kind of gotten dusty and grimy. So I am just hitting them with some alcohol that I've got in a spray bottle and then wiping them off with a cloth. Because I've got so many of these to do, that's why I actually grabbed a little piece of fabric or cloth to do this, because this was going to take a whole lot of paper towels if I was doing that. The other problem with doing it with paper towels is you end up with a little bit of the fiber or the residue, like the dust from it, and I wanted these to be as clean as possible. So I'm just going to keep working my way through all of these pebbles until they're all clean. And why am I using alcohol, by the way? Because that will really get the glass completely clear of any kind of oils, greases, that kind of stuff, whereas water wouldn't do that because it's glass and I've got to get things that generally would slip around and slide on glass to stick to it well. So that's why I want a super oil-free, grease-free surface to work on. Well, to get the words on these, I'm going to stencil them on, and I want to pick words that fit inside the pebbles. And since the pebbles are all imperfectly shaped and each one's unique, I'm just going to slide them over and see which words fit well within them, and some of the longer words, those will take a little bit wider or weirdly shaped pebble for me to get them to fit on. Now, there are two stencils I'm going to be using, this one called Wall of Words and the other one which is called Fridge Poetry, and I'm just going to be pulling words off of those. Well, these glass pebbles, they're going to roll around or want to run away as I'm doing this, so I need either a third hand or a way to get them to stay in place. And what I've got there is just a piece of tape. You know where you make the tape circle and that way you can just stick it down? And now I'm getting ready to put the word on it. I want to make sure that the word is backwards as I'm looking at it so that it will read correctly when it's on the pebble. But it's really hard for me to see exactly where the pebble is here because frankly I'm working with something clear on something white, so I need to do something to fix that. So I'm grabbing a piece of construction paper here and I'm just loosely tracing one of the pebbles and I'm going to cut it out so that I have an approximate shape to a pebble. Is this going to be exact and precise? Oh heavens no, because I'm going to keep using this for every single one of them. So I just need to be in the neighborhood. Then I'm going to make one of those fancy tape circles that I mentioned before where you just fold the tape over it, and I'm doing that so it just stays in place. One piece under the red and then one piece on top of the red, because the one on top is where I'm actually going to put the glass, and that way it's going to stay in its place. I can see the red around it so that when I put the stencil back on top, oh yeah, and you got to make sure that it's the flat side up on the glass because that's the part where you want to actually put the word, not on the domed part, but the flat part should be upright. Well, I'm all zoomed in here so you can see how that red makes it easier to see where your glass pebble is compared to it being clear. So that's why the red is kind of handy there. And then I'm going to find the word that I want to put on there. I'm going to go with the word secret. Got it lined up where I want it. Now I'm going to bring in the Stays On ink. I've got it in a re-inker. And could I use the ink pad? Well, I don't really know because I can't find my ink pad. So I'm just going to work with the re-inker and a cosmetic sponge. But I'm going to use a little bit of a cosmetic sponge. You saw that big one? That was full size. I've just got a little sliver. Actually, this is the leftovers when I'm doing some other stenciling. And what I've got now is a really little one. The reason why I want a little one is one, it makes it easier just to stencil one word, and two, the sponge will absorb up the Stays On ink. So if I use a big sponge, it might absorb a whole lot of ink, and why waste the ink? Now what I'm going to do is hold that stencil in place so it doesn't wiggle. Now I'm living pretty dangerously with this because this is a very juicy cosmetic sponge. So there's a chance some of it's going to run underneath there. And when I lift it up, we'll see if it does, and it did not. So I've got a very dark inking of this because I had a lot of ink on my cosmetic sponge. It does take it a minute or two to dry, so I don't want to touch it until it's completely dry, but oh no, crisis has happened. There is, now off camera, but in a moment I'll bring it back on camera. I over stenciled. I have got some ink where it's not supposed to be, some black smudges or smears. End of the world? No. It is time for a Q-tip to rescue me. Remember how that was rubbing alcohol in that spray bottle from earlier? I'm going to dip my Q-tip in there and I'm going to wipe it across that stays-on ink, and it's going to totally erase it as if it never happened. Absolutely easy to fix any kind of over stenciling. Sometimes I get really lost in what I'm doing and excited. Like I want to use the word dare on this one and I'm about to start, and that's when I realize, whoops, I can read that word. I'm not supposed to be able to read that word. If I'm working on the bottom of this, the word needs to be backwards to me. So I flip that over and then I'm going to stencil it. Now, what if I'd stenciled it backwards? End of the world? No, because you just rub some alcohol on it, erase it, and then you can go at it again. So there's the word dare on this one. And again, some over stenciling. All it takes is that Q-tip, wipes it right up. Now, so far, I've made it look like this is just something that comes out perfectly every single time, and I'm here to tell you, no, it most definitely does not. I pushed a little too hard, and I had a little too much ink, and guess what? On this one, the word life, yeah, it's just not that great. It's kind of, So all I'm going to do is take that alcohol and Q-tip and wipe it right off, and I can try again. Absolutely no risk to this. Well, now, what if you've got a word inside a word? Can you do that? Absolutely. The word that's actually on this stencil is the word heart, but I am just going to take the art, the A-R-T from it, and that way I can have a pebble that now says art. But wait, there's more you can do. You aren't just limited to just one word. You can put 2 words on this. So for this one, I'm going to take the word your, and I am just going to stencil that right on. By the way, the cosmetic sponge, when I get it loaded up with ink, it lasts for quite a few applications. So this really doesn't take very much ink at all to do this. I'm going to give it a moment or two here to dry all the way because I don't want it to smear, but if it does, we know how easy that is to clean up. And now I'm going to pick another word. I'm actually going to go for the really challenging word, the word that was hard for me to do before. I'm back at it again, and I'm going to try that word life. If this all goes as planned, I will have a pebble that now says your life. Now, I know about the time to load up that cosmetic sponge is when my stenciling gets really, really super light or faint. So if I want it to be a little bit darker, I'm going to take just a little drop of that stays on and add it to my little piece of cosmetic sponge, and now I'm ready to go after another word. But on this one, I'm not doing one word, I'm not doing 2 words, I'm doing everything that's on the pebble, so that I can actually do just a random spattering here of words, so that when you flip it over, it just looks very fun. It's got little bits and pieces of words. But wait, that's not all. There's more, because that's with me just going randomly. But I thought, you know what? There's still plenty of space on there for more. So I'm going to stencil on here very randomly, just picking a spot. I'm going to stencil around, not even trying to be very perfect about it. And then I'm going to take another part and add random stenciling from a different area, as if it really matters. Like you see me moving this around like I've got to pick the perfect spot for it. No, it really just needs to be a different spot, so that when you flip it over, you get a whole bunch of words sort of crowded on there. Really, really like that look with it too. Well, I actually like that so much, I'm going to do a bunch more that way. And actually, I'm just going to keep going until I have all of my pebbles filled with either a word or words or a random spattering of letters. And then it's going to be time to add some color to them. Well, these clear pebbles will not be clear for very long. The color is coming in the form of jelly papers here. These were made jelly printing, and basically it's just colorful papers, some with a lot of pattern, some with a little pattern, and I'm just going to use those to the advantage with these pebbles. So all the little variations that come about because of jelly printing really take the center stage with these pebbles. I can just go on a random spot, or I can use various lines and different areas of colors on the jelly prints on the pebbles themselves. So it's really a lot of options, and it doesn't take much paper to do a whole lot of these. As you can see, it would just be one little circle. I could probably get all of these pebbles on just 1 or 2 pieces of paper. However, I want to have a whole lot of different colors going on, and most definitely the word crazy is going on the one with lots and lots of crazy colors going on. Now, if you're new to jelly printing and you're not familiar with it, I've got some resources over on my blog, and there should be a link popping up for you around here. It's down below in the video description, and that'll take you over to where I have some stuff about how to get started with the jelly plate, what are the best kinds of paints to use, and then how do you mix colors on the jelly plate. But back to these pebbles, and how do you get them to stick? That's glossy accents. I'm going to put a bunch on there, use my very fancy tool, the finger, spread it around, and then plop it where I want. I'm also going to give it some very firm pressure, and that's going to squirt the glue out, because what I want is a thin and clear thing of glue there all the way around. Now, usually for me, because I use a lot of glue, or more than the quote perfect amount, I usually take something like a Q-tip around it and wipe up any excess glue. And then you'll need to give them an hour or two to really set up all the way before you bring in the scissors to cut them all out. Well, now they're dry enough for me to cut. Could I have let them wait a little bit longer to be a little bit drier? Probably wouldn't have been a bad idea, but I'm just really impatient, so I'm sure it'll be fine, and if it's not, I'll just call it an oops. So I'm just taking the scissors and cutting them out sort of in a very loose general way. That way I'm only dealing with one, and then I'm going to continue to cut out each marble very closely so that it looks like I actually took the time to carefully measure and cut these papers and all that kind of stuff. Now, you and I both know there's no way on this planet I was actually going to be that careful about cutting out these papers beforehand. But once you let them dry on the paper, then they're really easy to cut out, and you can actually get a lot done pretty quickly. Now, I had a ton of fun getting these pebbles back out. I don't know why I let them sit in that drawer for so many years, because they've been an absolute blast to play with. But one of the things that's happened during this play is, as I was using this jelly print, I found myself very protective of it. I love this print, and so I was only willing to use that little edge of it for this, because for some reason I'm treasuring that jelly print right now. So I couldn't bring myself to use it for the pebbles. And that's the cool part about this, is I could just use the edges and the ends, and that actually gave me some really awesome looks on those pebbles. Well, here I am cutting out the last couple of pebbles, and that little pile of paper on the top left corner up there on the screen, well, that's just a little pile of treasure. That's speaking to me and saying it needs to be in an art journal page or collage or something, and you know I'll be sharing the video with you when I make it. If you want to make sure that you see that video, be sure you hit that subscribe button. That way you won't miss a thing. Well, what am I going to do with these glass pebbles of play that I've made? Well, I can leave them on a coffee table and they just become sort of an interesting conversation starter. I can glue them onto a card, I can put them in an art journal, or I can even put together phrases with just a couple of the words. So if I put those two together, I've got see joy. If I take, say, the word live and then grab the pebble that says your life. So you can start putting together sort of those little phrases to make yourself happy or to share with others. Well, thanks so much for joining me for this week's Let's Play video all about how to let yourself play. And the play doesn't end here. Head on over to the blog at acolorfuljourney.com for this week's link party, where you can see what other people are playing with, as well as share what you're creating. And by the way, you don't have to have a blog. You can just upload directly the image that you want to share. And while you're there, make sure you check out who won last month's gift certificate giveaway. And by playing this month, by leaving a comment or sharing something that you've made, you get entered for the $50 gift certificate for this month. And this month, it's from Amazon.com. And of course, all the details are over on the blog, including how to link up if this is your first time participating in a link party, as well as all the other details. So head on over, take a peek, and I'll see you over at acolorfuljourney.com. Thanks so much for being a part of this colorful journey.